do shoot. Come on in and have a seat. We welcome you all here today. I have just one or two little quick announcements, comments, and then it'd be my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker who is coming to share some insight with us today and inspire us with regard to entrepreneurship. The first thing I want to mention is I want to compliment most of the students that are submitting business ideas, weekly business ideas. I am seeing some really, really good business ideas, more than I normally see this early in the semester. Usually a little later in the semester we start to get some ideas. I see some that aren't, real stellar. They're not super innovative. And so just a little heads up, if you're sending in ideas that are just like, I'm going to open a pizza shop, you're not going to get full credit for those kind of things. But the innovation, the idea that's creative. So the second little heads up is take about 10 seconds when you have an idea and just do a Google search for it to see how many other people are doing it. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you can't submit it as an idea. But I like you to think, come up with some original, even just adaptations, innovations to change what's already being done. And I am seeing some of those as well. I'm very impressed with it. I'm also tickled to see that I have several of you calling for appointments to come and talk to me because it's not just an assignment anymore. Now you're serious. I have some of you saying, I want to come and see you. I think this idea could work. Maybe. What do you think? And so I love that. Come in, see me. We'll help you get started, or at least explore it. Last week, a couple of you wanted to do that, and I apologize that I was out of the area last week all week, so I wasn't able to. Don't give up on it. We'll still get together. Grade checks. There are a couple. Some of the student athletes here at Snow College need to do a grade check, early semester grade check today. For me, what's very best if you want to do that is for you, if you have a device with you that you can bring up Canvas, go to your grade book so that you can show that to me. And then I'll just stick around over here for a few minutes after class and you just come up and we'll look at it and I'll sign your grade check. With that, it's my pleasure to go ahead and introduce today's guest presenter, Mr. Alan E. Hall. He has a personal mission to create jobs and lift people, and by so doing lift economies. Or maybe I could say it the other way, lift economies through jobs, and by so doing lift people. He is a tremendous investor and philanthropist with a heart for people. He's been here and spoke at Snow College a few times before. Each time he comes, I look forward to it. It's one of my all-time favorite things to have him come and share insight with us. He's been around, he's done a lot of things, but he I've found in the past, remembers what it's like to be a student on a campus. So he's very down to earth, but he has had tremendous success. Mr. Hall is the founder and past managing director of Mercado Partners, a top-performing growth equity venture capital fund focused on investment in high-growth technology companies that need additional funding and expertise in marketing and sales. He's also the founder, chairman, and former CEO of MarketStar Corporation, a global outsourcing or outsourced marketing organization with clients you would recognize, like Hewlett-Packard, Cisco, Sony, Intel, Verizon, and so forth. It's now owned by Omnicorp Group. He's the past chairman of the Weber State University Board of Trustees. He's an Ernst & Young and Mountain West Capital Network Entrepreneur of the Year recipient and several other awards that would take too long to list. He's also a well-noted author. He's been a writer and a columnist. He's written for Forbes magazine. He and his wife, Jeannie, who she's not here today. I'm sure she would love to meet all of you. I've met her. She loves students. She loves to meet people and help people. Together, they're also chairman and president of the Hall Foundation. The mission of that foundation is that there be no poor among us. They're parents of 6 married children and 17 grandchildren, unless I'm behind. You can update us on the family. So with that, let's welcome Mr. Alan Hall.
I drove down from Ogden, Utah this morning, and I couldn't wait to get here. This campus is marvelous. It's situated in such a beautiful valley. I noted the change of leaves on the mountainside, and I thought I'm coming to a little bit of heaven down here. And you have such a wonderful place. You have a great president who I know well. You have a great administrators and faculty, teachers who care about you and want to make sure that you come here, get the education you need so you can continue to advance your life. So I'm honored to be here. Seems like I get invited from time to time, and I'm always grateful to come to this beautiful part of the world to talk to students. And of course the topic today is about entrepreneurship. And if for any reason I can even talk about this topic, it's because I am an entrepreneur. And I would tell you that I've started a number of businesses. Most of them have failed. So we'll talk a little bit about what did I learn. I've had two, we'll call it very successful companies. And what did I learn from success? So today I hope to inspire entrepreneurs. I hope to create this spark inside of you that you'll have a sort of a growing bonfire with the possibilities, the potential of things that you might do as an entrepreneur. Great entrepreneurs, I think, are born, but some of us have to be taught how to be good at it. I'm an entrepreneur because that's who I am. And I knew long ago I couldn't work for a company. I have an MBA from BYU, and back then students were hired by big Fortune 500 companies, and I just didn't want to go there. I wanted to do my own thing, and that's what an entrepreneur is all about. I wanted to be responsible. I wanted to be accountable. I wanted to build the culture. I wanted to be the one that made the financial reward. I wanted the recognition. I wanted to build a culture that fit me and fit the people that would come to me. So entrepreneurship for me is a very exciting part of a person's life. To start, to grow, and at some point in time you sell your business. That's what entrepreneurship's about. You don't stay in it generally forever. There's all kinds of sort of businesses. There are lifestyle businesses that you can start and you would just stay with that the rest of your life. There are some businesses that have sort of a national footprint. There are other businesses that could be global. But no matter what you do, you're building that business to increase your value so that for you, your shareholders, and your employees, you have something that is sustainable. So today we're going to talk about the key principles of successful world-class entrepreneurship. And I'm assuming, Jamie, that we could probably leave this slide deck available online somewhere so they can access it. Would that be fair to do it that at some point in time? So you don't have to worry about writing down everything. Maybe make some notes or some impressions that you have about what I talk about. But for the most part, this slide show will be available to you. So when you look at the very, very first characteristic of an entrepreneur and someone, they want to follow their dream. They have an idea. And that idea is sort of deep inside of them, and they want to see it fulfilled. They want it to come true. There isn't a single business that has started in the world, or in the United States in particular, that wasn't started by a dreamer. There was an entrepreneur who had a dream. He had an idea about solving a problem. So for those of you who are in this room today, I hope some of you have a dream. I hope some of you have something that you want to accomplish that's sort of yours alone. We talk about discrimination. We talk about injustices. We talk about fairness. This is one place among all of us humans where nobody can stop us from dreaming. Nobody. We can think, we can ponder, we can figure out how to get something done, and nobody can take that away from us. Nobody can take that away. It starts in the heart, this sort of a dream we have, and then it goes to the brain, where the brain has to figure out how to execute it. So I hope all of you in this room at some point in time have some sort of a dream, whatever that might be, that you want to see come true. Now, in that regard, there are certain characteristics of that person. And I would love to just list a couple of them here for you today. It really has to do with they love what they're doing. It just sort of consumes them. It's just part of their personality. They have a passion for it. Matter of fact, that's all they think about. It is so much part of them that every day when they wake up, they're thinking about this idea. It's just a passion. They're energized by it. They have all these wonderful strengths and abilities, and that's what they're moving towards, they want to accomplish. They see that this can be fulfilling to them, that it'll have meaning to them in their life. They know that their solution, everyone will want it. It is such a great idea that everyone will want to buy my product, that there's a great solution for them and for their customers. And they're inspired. They feel like from heaven above, somebody's given them a great idea about how they're going to advance this cause, and they're very satisfied with what they're doing. I'm going to get this bottle of water here. Are we okay so far? Have you got dreams? So I would ask you on a sheet of paper during this little lesson today, write down your dream. What is it? And how you can define it. And as we learn, some ideas are good, some aren't so hot, but I want you to dream. I want you to think big, bold, and bodacious. So let me go to taking the risk. You know, if I look up in the dictionary what the term risk means, this is the second guiding principle. A risk is something that's not a sure thing. As a matter of fact, there's a high probability that it won't work out, that you'll fail. In some cases, there might even be some harm if you don't make it across that chasm. Entrepreneurs have to take a big risk in their lives, and there's no guarantee it's going to work out for them. But they're willing to leave their comfort zone. They're willing to do something where they really don't know what's on the other side. It's sort of a moment of faith that they think they can do something where they don't have all of the potential answers to what they're going to do. So I want you to think that entrepreneurs have to take a major risk in their life. And so smart entrepreneurs want to make sure that they evaluate the risk. Remember, the probability of failure is high when you take a risk. So what does an entrepreneur, what should they be looking at relative to making sure that this leap of faith that they're about to make will be measured? They can eliminate some of the downside to it. So if you look at my list here, one of the questions that you and I should ask is, what would have to be true for this to succeed? And there are 5 things that I would share with you in terms of what has to be true for this to work. There are 5 elements of a business. First of all, there has to be customers who want something. So we better be looking at that, shouldn't we? And we'll talk more about that in a minute. You have to have a solution for those customers. And will the solution meet their needs? Will it be better than what is out there presently? The third thing is, will they have the money to finance it? And we'll spend a little more time on that here in the slide presentation. Will they have the people who will help them execute it? And lastly, will there be the infrastructure that's necessary, such as policies and procedures for them to run a successful business? Those are 5 very high-level things that are sort of contained in the questions that are on here. I ask all entrepreneurs, no matter what, to have a fallback position. So let's say they go through their list and they've examined it, but when they get to it, they recognize, you know what, this is one of those decision tree things where it's a go or no go. And if it won't work, I need a fallback position. So here's what I would tell entrepreneurs, and make sure you don't forget what I'm going to tell you. Most entrepreneurs should never just leave their job and jump out and try and build something at the first. They should keep their day job. They should work on this at night on their own time, maybe on a Saturday. They should do all that I'm going to talk to you about here in a minute to make sure the business will be viable before you leave your job. Now, why do I say that? It's because back to probability, out of 100 businesses 100 ideas that will start, about 5 to 10 will make it. That means 90% or more, generally, the idea won't be successful. So what I want to do is sort of have a safety net for an entrepreneur to say, before you make that big leap of faith, before you cross that chasm, make sure you still have something to sustain yourself, something that will keep you alive until that business idea either works or it doesn't. The third item on here that entrepreneurs have to be able to do is to make significant sacrifices. It's the one thing, as I look back on my life, that sometimes I regret, and I want to sort of list what that means. But sacrifice means you're going to give up something that's important to you to do this business. And what might that be? So I've listed here on the screen for you some of the things that are going to be part of the sacrifice. Clearly, you might be giving up some of your own money. You might be giving up some of the precious dollars that you've saved to start this business, and it means that money's now gone. If you look then at some of the other things on here, time, there's only so much time in a day. You're going to be giving away precious time that you might be using on something else, and the one that I found was the toughest is right there. So, as was mentioned, I have 6 children, 6 married children, and while I'm starting MarketStar, which became a global business, which meant I was on the road almost all the time, I've got daughters and I've got sons who are involved in dance or theater or cheerleading. I've got boys who play all the sports. This guy is on an airplane and I am missing this. I'm literally giving up those precious moments in my life to be an entrepreneur. I made it to some of the games, some of the activities, but I didn't make it to a lot of them. And it was because I was sacrificing my relationship there to build a business. Entrepreneurs have to know you're going to do that with your spouse, your kids, other family members, and friends. Clearly, when you sacrifice to build a business, there might be other opportunities that you're going to give up. Maybe there's a hobby. Maybe you like to ski, play golf, water ski, whatever it might be, but you're going to give that up now because you're building a business. You're starting something that's going to take time, and you're therefore giving up things that are important to you. I have friends who lose their health when they start up businesses. It's a grinding thing to get up every day emotionally and physically to run a business. There's huge stress on an entrepreneur, and you give up some of your very system to start a business. Now, I don't want to scare you away from being an entrepreneur, but what I want to do is be frank and honest with you about what it really takes to do this. So the fourth guiding principle, and the one that I think is really, really important, is understanding the customers to whom you're going to sell your product or service. And it's so important that entrepreneurs spend at least 90% of their time talking to potential customers first. Do all your primary and secondary research, finding who the potential customers are, why and what are they using now, are they happy with the solution that they have. I would spend all your time on understanding potential customers and markets. And obviously Google, all the search capabilities are interesting to us. But entrepreneurs, and I'm going to tell you a sad story in just a moment about the opposite of that. But what I want you to do is do your homework. The more homework, the better. Don't just assume customers are going to buy your product. Make sure they exactly will buy them. So that fourth one is key. So I put up here just a short list of some of the questions somebody might ask relative to, to marketing, things you want to know about your customer. I won't belabor the points on here. These are things that you would be able to learn in your marketing classes, things about marketing research, things that will pertain to you understanding the product. But what I really want to do is I want to tell you a sad story about the worst way to do this. And here's the story. As the CEO of MarketStar, we are a company that has about 6,000 employees. We have worldwide operations. We speak some 17 different languages. This last year, I think we sold on behalf of HP and Intel and 30 large customers about $8 billion. So we sell a lot of products for big customers. I had a Japanese company come to us and said, the president said, Alan, we have, in Japan, we have built a new digital camera. It has some video capabilities, has some other wonderful little tools. And we've made lots of them. And I'm responsible to sell these all over the United States. And I've come to you because we know that you can do it for us. So I said, well, sir, let us do some due diligence. Let us do some marketing. Let's find out if the market is interested. So we have a research team. I put them to work. They came back and they said to me, Alan, only 10 stupid people will buy this product. I said, 10? We need more than 10. I asked them, well, why is that the case? They said, number one, the product is too expensive. It's not as good as what's on the shelf that retailers sell today. And retailers don't even want to put it on their shelf because what they have there is good already. So I went back to the president of this Japanese entity and I said, sir, these are the reasons it won't sell. And he said, well, Alan, in Japan, the factory is the one that decides what we're going to sell. Their engineers and the plant managers really rule, and they have 50,000 of these, and we need to sell them. I said, sir, it won't work. He said, well, try. So our team went out, we found 10 stupid people, and we sold those 10. But here was the point, and it happens to all entrepreneurs. Make big note of what I'm going to tell you. We think about the shiny object first. We think about this cool idea, this product that everyone will want, that it will revolutionize life. And we're very creative about this shiny product. And we spend 90% of our time and energy on making this perfect. Now, you know what happens? We take our shiny object and we go into the marketplace, and we've not really talked to a single soul about selling it or buying it. And they don't want it. They don't even like it. They think it's not a good idea. They think what they have already is sufficient. So that entrepreneur quickly fails because he or she runs out of money, which happens very quickly, and their idea failed because they did it in the wrong method. They went in the reverse order. So if you walk away here today with one lesson that I've learned, I learned it 4 different times, is the shiny object is not the first thing you do. Here's how you do it. You come up with the idea. You go talk to potential customers and you say, well, what do you think about my idea? Well, would you buy this? And they will say, well, if you did this or that, I might. So you go back to your lab, you go back to your basement, you work with it, you fix it. Now you take it back again and you say to the potential customer, what do you think? And you go back and forth with that customer until that customer says, you've got it right. You've got it right. The price is correct. It'll do what I've asked you to do. Now guess what? It's much more likely that you will have revenues because you have just what the customer wants. I failed on that 4 times. 4 times I built a shiny object and then tried to go to market. 4 times it failed. I might think to myself, you must be pretty stupid to do that. Well, by the 5th time I figured it out. Talk to your customers first. I didn't want to belabor that, but that's such an important thing. Now, another aspect of marketing, of course, is basically how you differentiate yourself from competitors. You have come up with a pretty cool idea, but what is the competition doing to sell themselves? So I like to think that to separate yourself, to differentiate yourself from the competition, you have to go beyond the mark. You really have to go beyond and really make this customer very, very happy. So what I've listed here for you are these. Companies that really do well don't just sell the product or the service. They're basically thinking, how might we add value? What more can we do to make our customers delighted, surprised, and happy with what we've got? So a lot of businesses that don't make it aren't thinking about what more should I do to hold the hand and take care of my customers. Honesty is a big part of this. I find too many companies aren't transparent. They really don't tell you the truth about what they're selling. And therefore, it's an opportunity for you to take advantage, I shouldn't say advantage, but to go past them and differentiate yourself and separate yourself from them. Price is sometimes an issue, and I'm going to talk about that in another slide. It's part of it. It's not the answer. But this one is. Customers should be thought of as your best friends. When you can establish a relationship, even though it's over the internet, where you don't have personal contact with them, where you can have a relationship where they see you as a friend, trying to take care of their needs, you differentiate yourself. And I'll tell you some stories about this in just a moment. So the next really important part, the fifth principle, the fifth guiding principle about successful entrepreneurship is we have to create revenue. We've got to sell. And I'm here today to tell you that the number one salesperson in a business is the CEO. I mean, I know CEOs can delegate to people relative to marketing and sales, but I really do feel that the entrepreneur, the founder of a business, should be able to sell his or her product. And if you've come up with something and the market's there and you can't sell it, that's a problem. You've got to feel so good about what you're doing and be convincing to somebody who's going to buy that. Why sales? Well, without revenues, companies can't pay their bills. You can't pay your employees. You can't buy inventory. You can't pay your creditors. You can't pay the bank back the loan. You have to make revenues. So what I find where companies make a big mistake and founders, they don't think about this. They're thinking about that shiny object and they forget to figure out how they're going to sell it. So I've listed on here some things. Again, this is something, a list of things that you might pick up in a class here at Snow that would teach you some fundamentals about the proper approach to closing sales. It's very fundamental, what I've listed on here, of the steps that you go through in order to close a sale. And you'll see it starts at the top with visiting with prospective people, making contact, listening to them, finding out their needs, understand what's important. You then present your offer with its benefits. You recognize that there's a timing, there's a cycle to a buying. You have to ask for the order, and lastly, you close the sale. Now, just a short story about a failure that I've learned from. Some years ago, I was president of Ballet West, the ballet company in Salt Lake City, and we were going to do a new ballet. It had to do with the Arabian Nights, and Senator Hatch recommended that I go see Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia. He was the ambassador to the United States from Saudi Arabia. And this ballet was about people in Saudi Arabia. So I had this wonderful meeting with Prince Bandar in his office in Washington, D.C., and he came to the point, he said, "Alan, so why are you here? What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I'm here to raise some money for this ballet. I'd like to have you help me." And so I just sort of blurted out, "I need $100,000 from you." And he paused for a second, had a big smile on his face, and he said, "I thought I was going to give you $500,000. But I'll just give you $100,000 because that's all you asked for." Boy, that lesson cost me $400,000, that lesson. So what did I learn out of that is when you're selling yourself, when you're selling a product, when you're selling a service, when you're selling a college, whatever we do, whenever we're selling, we want to maximize who we are and what the value is to the potential buyer. So one of the things I always suggest to people is when you're asking for that order, you're asking for the maximum amount that they can give. So in my life right now, I am raising money. That's what I spend half of my life on, is out talking to donors about various things. And I always say to them when I leave, please give us the maximum amount of money that you can give. I don't know what it is, but you do, and that's what we want to have. Sales, revenue is a key component of what we're talking about today. All right, so we've landed a customer. Now, the most important thing I would have you think about is we need to take care of that customer. And here's where, once again, you can separate yourself from your competition. But just keep in mind, once the sale is consummated, you're not done. You now have to deliver the product. You have to take care of that customer. So let me give you a hypothetical story. You tell me if this is the right way to do it. Let's assume that you have a very expensive car and you live down here in Ephraim and you have to go to Salt Lake City to get the car fixed, maintained and whatnot. And so you call the dealership of your fancy car and you say, there's a problem with my car, I need to have you look at it. So you drive to Salt Lake, which is, about an hour and a half away, would you say? Something like that? A couple hours? And you get there, they look at the car, and they say, okay, we'll get this part, we'll call it in. And so they say, come back next Tuesday. You get in your car, you drive back, and when you get there, the manager of the parts department says to you, I'm sorry, but the part didn't come in. So how do you feel? Anybody really happy in here that you drove up there for 2 hours, now you're going to drive back down and the part's not there? All right, so the manager says, I'll tell you what, you come back in a week on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, back you go, you get there, and then the part manager says, the guy who was going to put the part on, he's sort of an expert, well, he took the day off. How many of you are going to be on the news at 10 with your arms around the neck, the throat of the parts manager? Are you happy? Why aren't you happy?
You've gone up there multiple times now, and they haven't been able to perform the service.
What do you want that manager to have told you?
We'll let you know when the guy says so we can get your work taken care of.
Couldn't he pick up the phone and call and tell you? Welcome to American business. It's an opportunity for you as entrepreneurs to say, I'm going to take care of my customers. So I want to have you look at this slide as a formula, if I were to write it out sort of mathematically, where value equals price plus the product plus delivery of it, service and support, coupled with the buying experience. So back to the car hypothetical story. So you know what? The price was probably okay for what it was, right? They put the product on, it was delivered. You know, that all worked out. But what about this one? Was the buying experience good? So how many of you in this room go into some, we'll call it retailer or some business establishment where they don't treat you very well, where you have a poor buying experience? It happens to me all the time. The story about the car, that was mine. And my wife said I was going to be on the news at 10 going to jail because the buying experience was terrible. Now, American consumers get smart pretty fast and they say, that buying experience was terrible, I'm not going back there again. In every aspect of our life, whether it be service or a product, whatever we take care of our customers, that should be number one. And most businesses forget that key point. All right, I need to hire some people. The next guiding principle, I can't do this all by myself, so I really need to delegate to some employees who will get this job done for me. And so to that end, I want to share something with you that I've developed over the course of time that has been a really important guiding point for me. And you can go write this down, Alan, A-L-A-N-E, initial, Hall, H-A-L-L, all one word, lowercase, AlanEHall.com. I have a 21-page electronic book on the 7 C's of hiring. And now, why did I develop this? Well, here, when you try to hire 6,000 people, eventually I found out that my batting average of the people that stayed and the people that left was terrible. And I was making a major mistake in how I hired people. So what I want to teach you today is entrepreneurs or any business person who's trying to run a successful business has to hire correctly. And what we normally do is we start with the top one, is we start with somebody who's competent. Yeah, here's the job description. I'm going to try and match up the people with this job description. So I get resumes. And the resumes come in and I try and match this job with this person. And I interview them and I make a judgment call. But what happens is managers don't do the other 6 things. So let me just ever so briefly describe to you what's going on here. So to increase my batting average, to make sure I hired better people, I thought there's got to be some other characteristics that these people bring to the table. So I looked at it this way and I said, I need people who are capable of growth. They can't be someone who's just going to be satisfied in staying in the same job forever. I want this person to be able to do a better job than the last person and be promotable. Okay, that's good to know. Whew. I want to get along with these people. Do you know how many people I've fired because I didn't make it with them? Half of them. For one reason or another, we had a personality clash. That doesn't work because I was spending most of my time in an emotional battle with these employees at all levels. So I look and say to myself, I have to have people I can get along with. I'm their boss. I'm going to take care of them, but I got to be happy with them. Next, are they committed to staying? Are they just coming for a few months and then they're off to doing something else? I need to have them stay. We're going to train them. We're going to put money into them. We're going to compensate them. But they have to stay a while. I want to hire people of character. I don't want to hire characters. Is there a difference? Well, what does it mean to be a person of character? Well, they have values. They have integrity. They're honest. They have the values that are important to me, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So, culture, which is the biggest thing, and I have a whole slide on culture in just a moment, is these people have to match up with your culture. You have a business where people treat each other in a certain way. You want these people to come in and they fit your culture. And lastly, will you be able to pay them what you can and they're happy with it? All too often, I have people that come into work and they think they should make more, and frankly, it doesn't fit the way we're going to do it, and so they're unhappy, they're disgruntled, and they leave. These 7, for me, are then measured by calling the past employer, their peers, and their subordinates. And I'll ask them about those 7 questions. Their subordinates, the people that reported to them, they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you things you don't even want to hear about. Their peers will be honest. They'll tell you everything. Most of the time, the boss doesn't tell you the truth because of legal problems. So I don't worry so much about their boss, but I do want to talk to their peers that they worked with and subordinates that reported to them. If any red flags show up, I don't hire them. Next slide. We've hired these great people. Now let's take care of them. And I think I want you to know that a happy employee is productive. So I want you to write this down. I didn't have it in my slide, but this is important. Write this sentence. It's called the service profit chain. Service profit chain. It comes out of Harvard University, and the concept is basically this, that if I hire the right people using the 7 C's, and I take care of them so that my employees are happy and there's a culture where they're happy, they take care of their customers. And if they take care of your customer, The customer then comes back, rewards you, and gives you referrals of more customers, and the profits flow out of that stream. Now, most American businesses are all about money. They burn through employees, don't really care about their employees because it's all about making money. This model says take care of your people and take care of your customers first. Money is really the outgrowth of keeping these people happy. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you value your employee, you take care of them. This next picture are some of my sons. We went out to watch Tiger Woods a few years ago out the Masters, and they were working with me at the time, and we took other employees along. We wanted those employees to know that we cared for them, that they were important to us. And so I want you to look at the list of things that are important. Yes, you pay them properly, a marketable wage. You recognize them, provide awards. They get more education, they're promoted, they get fulfillment. And what I find is then I can keep these employees if I take good care of them. They're not people that I can just burn through and then find another warm body. That, for me, is a mistake that American businesses make. So, with just a few more minutes to go, and one of the remaining guiding principles is cash is king. It is so important to an entrepreneur to have plenty of money. And I think it sort of comes down to this. You have to have money to launch the business, money to operate it, and money to grow it. But the worst nightmare for an entrepreneur is to run out of money, particularly as they're growing. All of a sudden something happens where they don't have enough cash for inventory or more new employees or equipment, whatever that is, and the business quickly fails. So money has to be sufficient inside the enterprise for you to succeed. Of the businesses that I've had that failed, I went with a shiny object, not the customers first. I only had so much money, and when that money was gone, I had to let the employees go. Cash has to be on top of mind of entrepreneurs who run their businesses. Well, where does money come from? Let me list a couple of these here for you. First of all, you as a founder, you have some resources, assets. It might be a credit card, it might be some savings account, it might be a motorcycle, it might be something that you have. You sell that. So you have some cash. As you go along, the next thing that happens is you can find family, friends, and fools who will give you money. Family, friends, and fools. And they give you the money because they like you, they know you. And over the course of my life, I've had money from my family, friends, and fools. And the sad part of it is if I lose money, sometimes Sunday dinner's not so happy. So I have found that when I borrowed money or had investors, I gave them their money back sometime when I could do that. But it's a source of money. Banks won't give you any money until you don't need money. I mean, at the point that you need a loan, your business is really doing quite well, and the bank will give you money because they know you can pay the principal and the interest back. So that's money that comes late in the game. Angel investors, an angel investor will give you money. We want some ownership in it. Venture capital will give you some money. They want some ownership in it. And the moment you take money from people like us, we want to have a say in what you're doing. So I just need to hit a couple of these really fast because this next one's probably maybe the most important one I'll give you about culture. I want you to think what culture means. It means how we treat each other. And so in your home where you grew up, there was a culture, how your parents and your siblings treated each other. Here at Snow, there's a culture. Where you go to church, where you play ball. Cultures are everywhere. And cultures is all about how people interact and behave. I wanted to build my own culture at MarkStar on how we basically would treat each other. And here it is. So the 5 pillars at MarkStar are these. This is our culture. And I said to my employees, This is our culture. If you want to be part of our business, this is how we do it. So we said it's all about love, and you'll see here on my list, a love of God, meaning we allow people to have a faith, and that perhaps that faith guides the way they behave. We want people to love themselves. And all too often I find employees who do harmful things to themselves. They harm themselves, and then they can't not only take care of themselves, they can't take care of their families, they can't take care of their peers at work, and they certainly can't take care of their customers. They've done things to harm themselves. So we want our employees, if you will, to love themselves, take care of themselves. The third one on here is a love of family. So as a businessman, that's more important to me than the business itself. I want these employees to feel like they can leave our business at any time, night or day, to take care of their family. And they appreciate the fact that they don't have to go get permission to go to a kindergarten class, a show and tell, a daughter's volleyball game, or whatever it might be. They can go do that because we want them to support their families and take care of their families, but work will always be there. I mean, work is always there. So we want then our employees to love their work, to love their customers, to love what they're doing to take care of customers. And lastly, we want our employees to think the community has given to us. We have taken from the well, the water to nourish ourselves. The community in like manner builds roads and hospitals and ballparks, schools, and we feel it's incumbent upon us to love our community by giving back, whether it be in taxes, contributions of time or talents, run for office, whatever it is. We want our employees to give back. This is an interesting culture, isn't it? But it's based upon really, we love one another, we treat each other with respect, kindness, and love. And to that end, we then look at values that we'd like to have our employees think about, and we honor people. That there's honesty, we keep our promises, we're respectful of each other. We want to make sure that we're thinking about customers, we work together, we innovate, and we're always thinking about one another. That's our culture. Now, I do business with people like Donald Trump in New York City. They're aggressive people, and I sat down with them one day, and I sit down with our clients like HP and Intel, and I say, this is our culture. This is how we behave. If you don't like how we treat each other and how we're going to treat you, then we don't want your business, because money is not important to us. We're not going to change our culture to take care of yours. This is ours, and we resign business if we find a customer who doesn't want to do what we do. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement, but that's how we get it. And so there are plenty who are happy to do that. The last thing on here is that we need to be constantly communicating with each other. I find that some businesses and entrepreneurs really don't want to share the good, bad, and ugly. They're not transparent, they're not open, they're not honest with their employees, they're not telling what's going on, and employees deserve, out of respect, to know how the business is going. So I recommend to entrepreneurs, be open, tell people what's happening. There's no reason why you can't. And then lastly, this communication needs to flow up and down, down and up, sideways, where all the employees are talking with one another, communicating with their vendors, with suppliers, with the banks, with their donors, with their investors. And you find that things work out really well. Well, I know I'm just about out of time. You need to run, but can I just suggest one last thing? And there's that website I'd have you go. There are 100 Forbes articles on entrepreneurship that I've written that are there. You can download those. It's free. There's no cost to that. Those 100 articles are about things that will help you to be successful in business. There are a couple of ebooks that I mentioned, the one about certainly about hiring people. But my last point is entrepreneurship is a journey. I don't know of a single entrepreneur who's been successful that right out of the chute they were successful. That would be sort of an outlier. It just doesn't happen. So I want you to think, if you're an entrepreneur in this room, take the risk. Start your business. Learn from it. Whether it goes or doesn't, take it. Learn from it. What you learn from that one, go to the next one. It's a lifelong philosophy of life. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start, fail, grow. I'm going to learn as I do. So today, I hope I've given you some very helpful guiding principles in entrepreneurship that will help you in your life. And I thank you for being here to listen to me this afternoon.